Hello, and welcome to Winter Pride 2020. I am Pluff27. I'm going to be your host for these next couple of runs. My pronouns are she, her, or they, them. And, I mean, I could talk and talk and talk, but that's not what we're here for. We're here to see some amazing runs by some amazing runners, so please, Tusnek, take it away with Castlevania.
Hey, thanks, Pluff. Really appreciate it. Yeah, my name's Tusnek. My pronouns are he, him, and I'd like to play Castlevania for you. This is my favorite speed game, and I've been playing it for about 3 years, and I'm the current world record holder. One of my favorite things about Castlevania is, compared to a lot of other games, in my opinion, it's pretty accessible. So, you know, if you've always kind of flirted with the idea of speedrunning, or if you're looking for something that's relatively low stress and like a new game, Castlevania is a great game. But and this is kind of where you all come in. I have a couple of ideas on what I want to do today. The first idea is that, you know, I could kind of show you all what the you know, kind of like the race / marathon / beginner strats look like if you're interested in picking this game up. So if you'd like to see a run that looks like that, hit me with the 1 in chat. Otherwise, I'm planning on what I can do is I can just show you the most impressive strats that I can come up with and talk about something else. So I believe I can do that and still hit my estimate. So if you'd like to see quote unquote ham strats, let's see a 2 in chat. So let's see a 1 for, you know, kind of beginner tutorial type session, or a 2 for, you know, the craziest stuff I can throw at you. Okay, spicy. Let's keep it spicy. So I'm seeing a lot of 2s out there. So yeah, so I'm going to show you the best stuff I can come up with. I think there's only like 1 or 2 like quote unquote safety things that I'll do, but other than that, I'm just going to kind of go nuts. And like I said, I started playing this game in 2017, and this was my first speed game. And the I kind of got into this because one of my homegirl at work, Molly, she was asking me like, hey, you know, would you be interested in picking up speedrunning? And how about Castlevania? And I'd always loved Castlevania as a kid, so I was like, sure, let's try it out. So I picked it up and started learning it, and so did she. But she tends to jump around from, you know, hobby to hobby. So by the time I'd actually learned the run, she was had already put it down and was off to like learning about motorcycles or something. So at the time, a guy named K-Mac had the world record for this game, and the time was 11:32. And it was a really impressive run. I just missed the bat boost there, which is going to sting a little bit. It was a really impressive run, and aside from just like 1 or 2 small errors, was a pretty perfect run for the time. And K-Mac actually took the time down quite a bit. I think when he started running the game, the world record for the game was like a 12:06. He brought it all the way down to a 11:32 over the course of a couple years, with a couple of other people kind of you know, taking the record from him here or there along the way. And the strats that he would go with were pretty. They started off as pretty basic strats, and by the time he was done with the game, it was pretty modernized. And before K-Mac, a guy named Funk Doc had the world record with the game, and it was a 12:06. And Funk Doc was really the first person to take this game into the modern era of speedrunning. Before Funk Doc, what I consider like the golden age of Castlevania speedrunning, Funk Doc had basically to compete against folks that were doing essentially casual playthroughs of the game, but, you know, still pretty well skilled or high skilled playthroughs. You know, very few strats, a couple of damage boosts here and there, but for the most part, everything was pretty simple. But what Funk Doc did is he worked on some strats that were currently in the task, such as the cave skip and such as the mummy crit, which we'll hope to do later, and incorporated those into his run. But beyond that, those strats were also relatively simple, and when K-Mac got a hold of the game, he basically brought those to a spicier level. All right, there's my 6 hearts, so that's very good. So when I started playing the game, K-Mac had the world record with 11:32, and then a guy by the name of Furious Paul pushed the record down a little bit lower. And I actually, Furious Paul's run was the first run that I saw where I watched it from him learning the game all the way to, you know, getting the world record. And I was really impressed with Furious Paul's methodology and exploration of the game. But what really strikes me as interesting from Furious Paul is that the game was in a relatively finished state at the time. He did, with some help from different collaborators, bring the game to a more consistent place, but very few strats to actually make the game go faster. So I was actually really surprised that Furious Paul went for that world record, but his run is really impressive. It had a couple of mistakes, but I think just getting those strats to be way more consistent than what K-Mac had in his toolkit at the time, he was able to finish up way more runs and get way more runs to Dracula. Once Paul finished the game, he moved on to do other stuff, and a guy named Jonte from France, who had actually previously had the world record for a short time, picked up the game, and Jonte had a very special tool at his disposal that other runners didn't have, and that was the 2-cycle Dracula tool. The 2-cycle Dracula, so normally for a world record run, the Dracula fight, he'll go down in 3 cycles, but sorry, this is a tough screen. Let me pay attention for just a second here.
I can probably squeeze in a quick donation here.
Oh, that'd be great. Thank you. Yeah.
We have a $25 donation from Torakasi. Thank you so much, Torakasi, saying good luck to everyone on their runs. Thank you so much.
So yeah, Jonte pushed the time down a little bit lower. He got an 11:31, but actually in Jonte's run, he didn't get a 2-cycle. His run was just, for the most part, was using the same strats that Furious Paul was using, except he didn't make quite as many errors as Furious Paul did. So that was, basically 3 runs in a row that looked almost the same, that were just like a little bit apart. So then comes along this guy named JC, and JC saw the 2-cycle Dracula. He was like, wait a second, why doesn't the world record have this 2-cycle Dracula strat in it? 2-cycle Dracula saves about 3 seconds versus your normal times, and we have 3 world records in a row that were 11:32, 11:32, 11:31. So he saw a big opportunity here to shave off quite a bit of time. In addition to this, JC adopted more strats from the task and actually got an 11:30 only about 4 or 5 weeks after learning the game. And then he struck lightning in a bottle and just nailed this really, really, really strong run and got an 11:27. So he was actually the first to break the 11:30 barrier. And then he moved on to other projects. I think he moved on to Super Castlevania 4 at that time. And a lot of people thought that was going to stand for a while. And it stood for quite a bit of time. And it was a really fantastic run. And like I said, this was in 2018. This was in summer of 2018, and I started learning this game in 2017. I'm not a professional speedrunner, or I wasn't at the time. So my methodology was pretty poor, and I was just kind of taking it slow and steady. But by the time the end of 2018 rolled around, I was starting to get pretty good at this game, and there were a couple of other guys that had started that were actually really much better speedrunners than I am, that were started getting interested in the game, and the 3 of us really worked together to find new strats and try to figure out a path to beating JC's time. And those 2 guys were Ouija Wee, who's a ooh, sorry, I made a mistake there. I think we're gonna be fine though. Sorry, I'm in recovery mode here. Stand by. I think we're gonna be fine. Okay, we're good. So the 3 of us worked together, and we were all 3 grinding, playing with new strats, and just trying to figure out how we can. I'm actually going to do that so I can try to get myself a double shot over here. See how we can beat JC's time. So after a few months of working together on new strats and just pushing the game as far as we can go, we got an 11:27. Or rather, I got an 11:27 with the help of SBD Wolf and Ouija Wee. And I only beat JC's world record by 5 frames. And then a couple of weeks after that, actually it was less than a month after that, I think about 3 weeks, SBD Wolf also got an 11:27 and beat my run by about 8 frames. So we're still on razor thin margins. So I'm fighting to try to get my run back, and he actually PBs again and makes it a little bit harder. And then I PB again, and I miss bopping his time by 5 frames. So I thought it was kind of poetic that I had bopped JC by 5, and then I failed to bop SBD Wolf by 5. And then I actually took a break. I was like, all right, I'm getting a little burnt out. I'm going to take a break for a month. And of course, that month turned into 6 months. And in that meantime, SBD Wolf actually pushed his record down from 11:27 all the way down to an 11:24, which was a super fantastic run. Ouija Wee tried again for a while, and he reclaimed 2nd place on the leaderboard. He bopped my time. He got an 11:26, but was unable to close on the world record. I think now would be a good time for any other donations if you have them.
All right, we have a couple donations coming in from some of the previous runs. Everybody appreciating the wonderful and incredibly interesting things that Jaxler always has to show us. We have $5 from Chudley. Thank you very much, Chudley. From a great hidden gem, Shattered Dimensions, to a blessedly hidden gem, Stuart Little 2. Thank you for a great afternoon, Jaxler, and thank you from me too. It was absolutely wonderful to watch. And we have a $35 donation from Silent Tremor saying hi. Hello. Thank you very much for those $35, Silent Tremor.
Yeah, so SPD Wolves 1124 held for a long time, about a year, and I made a mistake. There we go. Okay. And then starting at the beginning of this year, SPD Wolf and I had planned on trying to go to ESA Winter, and no, it was going to be ESA Summer of this year and race the 2-loop category of this game. But as you all know, 2020 happened, and instead we submitted 2-loop for the Corona Relief Done Quick Marathon, and we had a race of that, which was a lot of fun. So during that time, SPD Wolf record pushed the 2-loop record down quite a bit more, and I was kind of sick of grinding that category. So I figured while I was derusted, I might as well try to get another 80% PB while I move on to another game. But about that time, a runner by the name of Real Bong came up with this really funky way that I don't even quite understand today. That can be used to critical hit the Frankenstein monster, which I did earlier in this run. And a critical hit in this game is normally a 1-frame window. You have to do damage to the enemy on the same frame that the enemy does damage to you, which is pretty tough. And you can technically critically hit anything, but you don't really want to try to critically hit everything because, you know, we're mortal and we don't have infinite time to do, you know, to just crank out PB attempts all the time. But for some reason, with this new method he came up with, he turned that critical hit from a 1-frame window to a 3-frame window, and that really just changed the game completely. So while I was trying to PB, he showed me the strat, and I found that I was able to save quite a bit of time against the world record in a couple of spots, and that got me really excited. So you know, I started grinding the game, and I started pushing my time down. I got an 11:26. It wasn't quite low enough to Bob Ouija Wee's time, so I was still 3rd place. And at about the same time, SPD Wolf, the guy that currently had the record, he knew I was on the grind, and he actually applied the Real Bong principle, as I like to call it, to the Medusa fight as well. So now we have critical hits on virtually every boss in the game besides the death fight that are all relatively easy to knock out. So using all of these new strats, I was able to grind down the record to an 11:24. Okay, we got a bad pattern here, so we're gonna do the best we can. So this is the fight we normally try to get 2 cycles on, but I think we're gonna have to settle for 5. So, you know, using all these strats, I ended up getting 11:24, and then I got an 11:23 shortly after that, and then an 11:22 shortly after that, and that's where it stands today. But speedrunning Castlevania is really exciting right now because K-Mac is back and he's on the grind. So, you know, and that's time. And, you know, I think it's a really cool speedrun because K-Mac's back, I'm grinding the game, and there's a new guy named Evade Capture that's grinding the game, and SPD Wolf's going to be back after he finishes his Donkey Kong Country 2 grind. So, you know, we see a game that's super optimized like Castlevania, you know, where we're shaving off frames here and there, and, you know, there's still probably 2 or 3 seconds on the table. So, you know, anyway, I hope you enjoyed that run of Castlevania. Thank you, everybody, for the GGs. I appreciate y'all.
Yeah, GG, fantastic run. That was an absolutely great watch and a fascinating history lesson on some of the Castlevania world record and how that's been going over time. That was really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you all for having me. This was a lot of fun. Big shout out to Air Angel for putting this marathon on my radar. I'm notoriously bad at keeping track of not only the marathons that I would want to submit for, but also the ones that I've submitted for and I'm on the schedule for. I got hit up 5 minutes before my run was live last Friday for the RGL TV Feed the Kids Marathon, and I was in the middle of a Civ the game with my buddy Kyle, and I just had to hop onto my Nintendo and play it. So thanks to Air Angel for putting this on, or no, not for putting this on, for putting this on my radar, and thank you to you all for putting this on. It's for a great cause, and the Trevor Project's great. And yeah, and just thank you for the time. I really appreciate it.